War Sovereign Soaring the Heavens, Chapter 767. When Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu walked out of the Ice Flame Pavilion, they didn't see a trace of Suli and his master. I truly never imagined that we'd be able to meet Suli here. Feng Tianwu smiled. Yeah, I never expected it as well. Duan Lingtian nodded and was shocked by this as well. After that, Duan Lingtian thought in his heart. Even more unexpected to me is that I was actually able to drink wines like the Blazer wine, Glaze wine, Blue Longing, and Red Charm in Amir Darming dynasty's capital. Looks like because the Darming dynasty is neighboring the foreign lands, besides cultivation being prevalent here, there are many more things that other dynasties don't possesses. Big brother Duan, do you think the Zhao clan will send people to protect you? Feng Tianwu couldn't help but laugh when she recalled the scene from before. Duan Lingtian started laughing as well. I truly never imagined that one of the two most outstanding young geniuses in the Darming dynasty, Zhao Weiyi, is actually already a void interpretation stage martial artist. Feng Tianwu sighed. Supposedly, the strength of the Darming dynasty's crown prince is superior to Zhao Weiyi. I presume that the crown prince is probably in existence at the void interpretation stage as well. After both of them returned to the inn, they rested for another 2 days before continuing on their journey. Duan Lingtian's group of 3 left the Darming dynasty's capital to arrive at the place they parted with the Azure-eyed Eagle that day, and the Azure-eyed Eagle was already waiting there. After they descended onto the back of the Azure-eyed Eagle, the Azure-eyed Eagle's wings spread out before seeming to have transformed into a bolt of lightning that instantly vanished on the spot. Its objective pointed straight towards the ancient desert city in the northern desert, as that place was precisely the place the martial competition of the 10 dynasties was held. On the way, Duan Lingtian held the wind concept fragment in his hand and comprehended wind concept with concentration. Presently, he was only a step away from comprehending first-level intermediate wind concept. Once his concept advanced, his cultivation would instantly break through to the void interpretation stage in one go. Time flew by. 2 months of time passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, Duan Lingtian, who sat cross-legged on the back of the Azure-eyed Eagle like a statue, had finally moved. Strands of material azure-colored energy gushed out from his body before coiling around him as if they transformed into gusts of clear wind that were pulsating. Suddenly, origin energy suffused out from Duan Lingtian's body to converge with these azure-colored energy, and they formed real wind. The wind didn't blow out in all directions but instead coiled around Duan Lingtian's body and revolved ceaselessly with a speed that grew swifter and swifter, and it seemed to have formed a vortex that revolved endlessly. Big brother Duan. Meanwhile, Feng Tianwu was jolted awake from her cultivation by the whirlwind on Duan Lingtian's body. Father, what's happening to big brother Duan? Feng Tianwu looked at Feng Wudao, who sat nearby, and she asked with a worried expression. Don't worry, it's a good thing. He's about to break through. How shocking was Feng Wudao's discerning gaze. He'd long since seen through the change that was occurring on Duan Lingtian, and it was a 9th-level elementary wind concept completing its final transformation. Once the transformation was successful, then a pheasant would become a phoenix, and the elementary wind concept would transform into intermediate wind concept. At that time, Duan Lingtian's cultivation would advance a step further and break through to the void interpretation stage in one go. Breakthrough. Feng Tianwu's beautiful eyes lit up and a smile suffused her beautiful face as she was happy for Duan Ling Tian. The revolving speed of the whirlwind that was formed around Duan Ling Tian grew faster and faster, and in the end, it even caused the origin energy barrier on the azure-eyed eagle to shake and seem as if it would be tore open at any moment. Qing, retract your origin energy barrier and allow him to be outside, said Feng Wu Dao to the azure-eyed eagle. The azure-eyed eagle nodded lightly before his origin energy barrier instantly retracted back and only protected Feng Wu Dao and Feng Tianwu. As for Duan Ling Tian, he was completely exposed to the outside world, and he greeted the gusts of piercingly cold strong winds that assaulted his face. But these strong winds hadn't even approached Duan Ling Tian when they were completely destroyed by the whirlwind around Duan Ling Tian's body, and Duan Ling Tian was completely safe within the whirlwind. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian's entire body and mind was immersed in the comprehension of wind concept, and he himself didn't know how long had passed and only knew that he wanted to comprehend intermediate wind concept. Unknowingly, he touched the threshold of intermediate wind concept, and he only lacked placing his foot through the door, yet he was stuck at this last step. At the beginning, no matter how he tried, it was useless, and he gradually couldn't help but become slightly dejected. But later on, when he was disappointed to the point of wanting to give up, he instead obtained good fortune when he wasn't even trying, and it allowed him to stride past that last step. Bang! Once this step was taken, Duan Ling Tian felt as if he was suddenly filled with enlightenment, and gusts of refreshing wind fused into his body from all of his pores. After all the wind fused into his body, a single thought of his caused his entire body to be surrounded by gusts of piercingly cold azure-colored strong winds once more. Presently, even if he didn't fuse his origin energy into it, the wind concept wasn't much different to normal wind. Suddenly, Duan Ling Tian opened his eyes and a bright light flashed within. After he opened his eyes, the first thing Duan Ling Tian did was raise his head and look up into the sky above him. The phenomenon of the heavens and the earth had already condensed into form here. Numerous ancient horned dragon silhouettes were gathered there, and they dashed along extremely swiftly with him. A total of 20 ancient horned dragon silhouettes. First level intermediate wind concept. Duan Ling Tian's gaze lit up. He knew that he'd succeeded in smoothly comprehending intermediate wind concept, or as it's commonly referred to, void interpretation concept. Comprehending void interpretation concept also meant that he'd obtained the certificate of passage that led to the void interpretation stage. Big brother Duan, congratulations. Feng Tianwu smiled as she congratulated Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian replied with a smile, and then he couldn't help but ask. How long has passed? It has been 2 months since we left the Darming dynasty. We'll be able to enter the northern desert very soon, said Feng Tianwu to Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian came to an understanding and looked down below, yet he noticed that everything that entered into his eyes was gray. Because there no sunlight, his field of vision had been completely obstructed by the clouds and mist. Duan Ling Tian nodded, and then signaled to Feng Wu Dao with a nod before closing his eyes once more, and the first level intermediate wind concept on his body was retracted along with this. Feng Tianwu was slightly puzzled by the scene before her. Hasn't Big Brother Duan's wind concept already broken through? Why has he closed his eyes again? Could it be? Seeming to have thought of something, Feng Tianwu's beautiful eyes squinted. Big Brother Duan wants to directly charge into the first level of the void interpretation stage. Never had Feng Tianwu imagined that Duan Lingtian's ambition would be so great, and for a time, at the same time that she gasped in admiration because of this, she felt a shapeless force of motivation seeming to be urging her to quickly work hard and cultivate. Instantly, Feng Tianwu sat down cross-legged before starting to cultivate and comprehend fire concept. Unknowingly, Feng Tianwu's body was suffused with origin energy, and when combined with fire concept, it actually transformed into material flames that seemed like real flames. If Duan Lingtian saw this scene, he would surely be greatly shocked. Because the fire concept that Feng Tianwu had executed at this moment wasn't an ordinary elementary fire concept any longer. Her current fire concept was already capable of becoming material, and it also meant that it wasn't far from advancing to become a first-level intermediate fire concept. It was possible for her to officially comprehend intermediate fire concept at any moment. Once that happened, when Feng Tianwu's cultivation advanced a step further, it would be the void interpretation stage. Feng Wu Dao stood at the side, and his gaze had always been on Duan Lingtian. At this moment, he faintly sensed that the origin energy in Duan Lingtian's body actually had traces of being about to break through. This kid, Lingtian, is truly shocking. He'd only just comprehended void interpretation concept, and he's about to break through to the void interpretation stage. Presently, Duan Lingtian's entire body and soul was immersed in cultivation, and the origin energy within him was improving at an extremely swift speed. His origin energy that had already arrived at the limit of the 9th level of the void initiation stage was already capable of advancing once more because he'd comprehended void interpretation concept. I'll rely on the medicinal strength of the rebirth pill to break through the bottleneck in one go and break through to the void interpretation stage. Duan Lingtian thought in his heart as his origin energy started to pull out the medicinal strength of the rebirth pill that was accumulated within his body to assist his origin energy to increase its speed of improvement a step further. Every single moment, Duan Lingtian was able to clearly sense the origin energy in his body strengthening endlessly. A day passed. 2 days passed. 3 days passed. The 5th day. Bang! Under his lead and the push from the extremely overbearing medicinal strength of the rebirth pill, the origin energy in Duan Lingtian's body had finally smoothly charged through the final bottleneck of the 9th level of the void initiation stage. After it charged through the bottleneck, his origin energy flowed throughout his body and underwent a transformation at an extremely swift speed. Not long after, his origin energy had completely transformed. After his origin energy transformed, the infant-shaped mist that was condensed from origin energy in Duan Lingtian's Danshan had become even more material, and it wasn't so illusory as before. This is the void interpretation stage. Duan Lingtian opened his eyes and lightly clenched his fists. Instantly, origin energy flowed throughout his body and coiled around him in a short moment. The energy of the heaven and earth roiled, causing an extraordinary change to occur in the sky above Duan Lingtian, and numerous ancient horned dragon silhouettes swiftly condensed into form before converging together to form a formidable array. A total of 20 ancient horned dragon silhouettes. Merely his origin energy was comparable to the strength of 20 ancient horned dragons when utilized, and it was precisely the symbol of the first level of the void interpretation stage. I've broken through. Duan Lingtian smiled extremely brilliantly. In his original expectations, it was already not bad if he was able to break through to the void interpretation stage before the martial competition of the 10 dynasties, yet never had he imagined that he'd broken through almost an entire 2 months ahead of time. Perhaps, during this almost 2 months of time, I can rely on the overbearing medicinal strength of the rebirth pill to charge into the second level of the void interpretation stage. Duan Lingtian thought in his heart.